Okay. So, over the past few days, I have had the sincere pleasure of listening to the audiobook for A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole. And if you've never read this book or listened to this book, like, I can't recommend it enough. It's, how would I describe it? It is about the misadventures of a bunch of people living in New Orleans, and I believe it is in the 1960s. And the whole book has kind of this sitcom feel to it. Like, one thing I noticed is that each chapter, again, I listened to the audiobook, each chapter is generally about an hour or so. And it's not like chapter one, Ignatius, and then here's a whole chapter about what Ignatius is up to. It's like, okay, here's what Ignatius and his mom are up to. Now it'll cut to Burma Jones and stuff going on at the Night of Joy. Now it'll cut to Patrolman Mancuso for a bit. Now it'll cut back to Ignatius. To be fair, I think the first chapter is overall mostly just Ignatius and Mrs. Riley. But each chapter will generally have a few different viewpoints and jump around them, very much feeling like an episode of television. Like, I could easily see Confederacy of Dunces being like a one-season TV show, but probably with longer episodes. And what I really enjoyed about this book is that by the end, there was something Jose had told me, because Jose is like the reason I have read it, is that the book is incredibly funny, but it's also deeply sad. And I'd listened to part of the audiobook before because we had first listened to it on like a road trip of ours, but I never listened to the whole thing, and I had very much meant to. So like I had restarted, listened to the whole thing, and there's points where I'm like, I can kind of see how this is kind of sad, but I don't know, generally I just think it's like really funny and really entertaining. And by the end though, I'm like, no, Jose's right. There is something really deeply sad about this story. And I think both the comedy and the sadness like begin and end with Ignatius. Ignatius J. Riley, I think I could best describe as like a 30-year-old Cartman from South Park if he was wearing Kyle's hat. Because he always has that ding-dang green hunting cap on. But like they use so many words to describe his physique, like rotund, anytime I hear elephantine, I just start howling with laughter. It's just an inherently funny word to me. But he is a large man with no job, no social skills, highly educated, who has decided it is his personal business and moral duty to go on a crusade against anything that is lacking decency and good taste, which to Ignatius is everything. Just to describe like one particular scene that it happens a few different times, is like he will go to the movies, and he makes a point to try to go to the movies like every day or every couple days. We'll go watch a movie, see the opening credits, and go, oh, I don't like any of these people because this person made this that I hated, this person made this that I hated. And when almost anything happens, like a song sequence, a romantic scene, he's like, good grief, what are they doing corrupting our youth? Why is this debaucherous display in front of me? They should all be lashed immediately. And then at one point, like, he's dressed like a pirate for one of the jobs he has to get, where he's a hot dog vendor, so he starts rattling his cutlass while talking about how this is an affront to decency and good taste. And everyone in the theater is having a miserable time, and he doesn't care. Because Ignatius is someone who has zero empathy. Oh gosh, what was another scene I was going to bring up? Like, another similar scene is Mancuso and Mrs. Riley are like in the kitchen having a discussion, and Ignatius is in the other room watching some show that he watches like every day or every week. And he's just like, why is this debauchery being displayed? Like, you just hear his comments, and Mrs. Riley's like, no, yeah, he's just like that. He always does that. My poor heart can't take it. Like, he's got a good education, but he's done nothing with it. And like, now I have to pay this guy $1,000 because I got into a car accident and I can't afford that. And Ignatius doesn't bring in any money, so he can't help it. Like, Lord, what is the poor girl gonna do? It's really interesting to me that I listened to this book after reading Catcher in the Rye, because I described Catcher and Holden in particular as, this is someone who has who has experienced trauma and is still dealing with his grief. And I feel like that grief has made him very misanthropic. Not in a way where it's like, I hate everybody, but misanthropy in a way where it's, I choose to see the worst in people, or I choose to interpret their words and their actions in the worst way possible. I choose to see them as fake, as phony, because I'm not happy and I don't experience joy, so I don't think other people can either. So I hate it whenever someone says, oh, this is marvelous, I've had a marvelous time, it's marvelous to see, because I think it's the word marvelous in particular. He's like, I hate that word, it's so phony. But I feel like there is some hope for Holden, because at the very least, there is something that he does love and believe in. Like, he loves his little sister, and he does believe in innocence and upholding innocence. Like, I have this vision, like this fantasy where there's these children playing in this field of rye near a cliff, and my job is I catch them before they fall. Like, I'm making sure that they're safe. And then I read Ignatius, which feels like, if Holden never grew out of being an angsty teen, or if Holden never got the help he needed to help him with his trauma and his grief, he would be someone like Ignatius. Because Ignatius is someone who also has dealt with trauma and grief, and for him, primarily it was the death of his dog. Because it's said, like, a couple times, like, a couple different ways, like, Ignatius was very close to his dog. Like, it seemed like he was a pretty average child, like a pretty happy child. And then his dog died. And after that, something changed and something broke. Like, Mrs. Riley notes that it was the last time he ever, like, went to church or, like, was good with the church. Because they say that he talked to a priest after, and I don't remember them saying, like, this is what the priest told him. But I could guess the priest probably told him, like, yeah, like, no, your dog doesn't go to heaven. Like, it's a dog, it's an animal, like, they don't have souls. And that's probably the moment Ignatius broke. Like, how could something that I love, something that has always been there for me, has always been kind to me, not have a heaven, not have an afterlife? That's wrong. That's bullshit. That's not decent. There's no good taste in that. And it's something that changed his worldview. And there's also this moment where, when he's at Dorian's party, where he's again anytime he's dressed like a pirate, I feel like I have to bring it up because it's just so funny. Like, when he goes to the Night of Joy after, and the Darlene's cockatoo just sees his earring and has to start playing with it, and everything gets ruined. It's so funny. But also, again, like, with it being deeply sad, there's a point where he's trying to rally the homosexual, like, population of New Orleans to form a political party, because he thinks this could be, like, a big thing that can change the world, but mostly because his ex-girlfriend, who is his arch nemesis, but still the love of his life, is someone who is very active in politics, and is someone who believes very heavily in sex and in Freud. And he's like, if I can combine sex and politics, that will show her. Not in like a, yo, that'll get her to pay attention and love me again. It's, that'll show that minx Minerva Minkoff. He's like, she deserves to be lashed. Because he's an awful person. But anyway, like, he's at this party, and he's trying to give this speech in this rally, and as it goes on, all the attendees are like, yeah, this is dreadful. This is depressing. Like, Dorian, we just wanted to come here and have a party. We haven't had a party in a long time. Can you get him to stop? So, everyone starts ignoring him. And Ignatius remembers this time in high school where it was in chemistry class, and there's there's some kind of experiment, and there's an explosion. And it was something that scared him so much that, like, he wet himself. And no one paid attention to him. Like, the teacher is like, yeah, it's that Riley kid, and he's had these kind of explosions before. I'm just gonna not care. And none of the other students throughout the rest of the day did either. It's not even like just a pariah. Like, he was just a non-entity. And I think about that and what happened with his dog. And to me, Ignatius is someone who has not been happy since he lost his dog. And also just lacks, I don't know if it's that he lacks social skills, or if it's just the fact that he's never been able to really get close to people. But like, that moment in high school, to me, explains a lot of his character. Because Ignatius is someone that will always draw attention to himself. And just like the way he looks, the way he dresses, certainly the way that he acts and the way that he talks. Like, to me, it's like, oh, that's why he goes to the theater and is always like making a ruckus and making it all about himself, so that people will notice him. People will have to pay attention to him. Like, the reason he does all this audacious shit, like, part of it is, and I think it's kind of the relationship with Myrna as well, is like, here's the one person, like, maybe aside from his mom, that really sees him and seems to care about him and how he's doing. And part of it is like, it aggravates him in a way. It's weird. It's like this dichotomy of, this is the one person who sees me and cares about me, so I want to keep her in my life, but I do it in the most like Ignatius way possible, because I think it almost kind of offends him that someone would want to care about him and would want to reach out to him. And like, she's her own weirdo as well. Like, they're perfect for each other. But there's something about the ending as well, where by the end, his mom's like, this kid needs help. I need help. And she decides, I'm going to put Ignatius in like a mental hospital, because I think that's what he needs. And Ignatius is able to kind of put two and two. He's like, she's saying goodbye in a way that's like weirdly final. And I know I've heard that friend that she talks to say that you should put him away. And there's a chance I might get sued for libel, which is its own thing. And mom is saying, I'm going to be safe from that. She won't let that happen to me. And if I'm in a mental hospital, that won't happen. Oh, this is what's happening. I need to get out. And then luckily, that minx, Minerva Minkoff, shows up and is like, Ignatius, I've been writing to you for a while. I've been really worried. I wanted to just come and like talk to you and see what's going on. I've been telling you need to leave this place. You need to get out from like the shadow of your mother. Come to New York. And he's like, oh, thank God. And then like they just leave. But as they leave, there's this one bit that's really funny where he's just kind of playing up to her like, oh, you're right. How could I have ever doubted you? Everything you've ever said is correct. And then she's like, oh, thank goodness, Ignatius. Like, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you. We're going to go. And they get in the car. And then he kind of starts like looping back to being himself. And she's like, Ignatius, you're starting to treat me the way that you always have, and I'm starting to think I've made a mistake. And he immediately changes his tone, like, oh, wait, no, come on, don't be like that. And it even says, like in the audiobook, like, the tone shift is so funny. But even in the book, it's just like, yo, Ignatius said sweetly, and you can tell he's trying. He's putting up a front. But once they, like, leave the area, he actually does feel better. He's always talking about his valve, my pyloric valve. Gosh, anytime the valve gets brought up, there is this one line that had me like howling, like cackling with laughter. And I believe it's, what's his name? Mr. Gonzalez, the manager at Levy Pants. The whole Levy Pants shit is so good. But he's talking about Ignatius. Like, Mr. Riley is so good. Like, he's such a good employee. He's all heart. Well, that and valve. That got me. But essentially, it's like once they, kind of leave the area, Ignatius, for the first time in the entire book, just relaxes and seems happy. And the last thing that happened is he's sitting in the back, and like Minerva's like ponytail, like her pigtail, whichever it was, like her hair is trailing behind her, and he just like takes her hair and just like kisses it. Which, given Ignatius's like genuine aversion to other people and human contact, really says a lot. Because it even says, it's a show of gratitude, like he was feeling super grateful. For someone like him, that is a sincere display of affection. And I think Minerva, to a degree, is right about him. He just needed to get out of that town. I don't want to blame this on his mom, because he's the one who treats his mom like shit, not the other way around, but he did need to get out of that environment and start to try living his own life. Because I remember I was talking to Jose about it, he's like, my interpretation of Ignatius is that he's too sheltered. And because of the environment he's in, and again, not to blame his mom, but because of that environment where he's in, he's been able to get away with not taking care of himself in kind of any capacity. And it seems like by the end of the book, now that he's going to have to, he's weirdly not as averse to it as we might think. Now, because there is no follow-up, we don't know how that would go. It's possible that, Ignatius in New York would just be Ignatius in New York, which sounds like, again, an incredible book or like an incredible season of television. But that's kind of how I see the character. And it's just kind of going over some of the, I feel like I have to talk about Mr. and Mrs. Levy, because all of their interactions, like, speaking of the book being simultaneously really funny and really sad, like, they made me laugh, but also just infuriated me. As Mr. Levy himself puts it, it's like, my wife is so, like, averse to me and kind of in her own world that she would rather see this lawsuit go through and us lose, because even if she loses all of this money, it's worth it because it means she was right about me. And like the way that she just like says, and again, a lot of it just might be the way she's read in the audiobook, like, is so funny to me. But also, yeah, you just hate this man and believe he's a failure and want to see him, like, he literally can't do anything right. He fires Ignatius because Ignatius basically stages a coup and a riot inside of Levy Pants. And one of, I think, the funniest parts of the book, where he's trying to get the workers who are like, oh yeah, we're doing this like for higher wages. Cool. He wants them to attack Mr. Gonzalez and like beat him over the head. And so he gets fired for it. And Mrs. Levy's response, like, oh, that's just like you, Gus. There's a young idealist who wants to change the world and better the lives of other people, and you just want to fire him. You always do that. You don't think about anybody but yourself. Just look at Miss Trixie, this poor woman, this poor wilting flower. All you want to do is get rid of her. You just want to retire her, but she needs this job, Gus. She needs love. She needs to feel respected. And all Mrs. Trixie's like, am I retired yet? I just want to retire, and I want my Easter ham. Gloria? Mrs. Trixie is so funny, dude. What else do I really want to say? One of the things I really, again, getting into like the comedy and the sadness at the same time, is Burma Jones and his story, which essentially boils down to, as an African American in the 1960s, he was not treated particularly well. And he got busted for being a vagrant and was essentially told, if you don't get a job, you're going to go to jail. And then got a job for 20 hours a week, or excuse me, $20 a week, far below the minimum wage, specifically because the employer knew, I can get away with this. I can exploit this person because they need this job or they will go to jail because he's black. And I genuinely find the character to be really fun. Like, the way he's described as, like, he's always smoking. So they'll just describe, like, how there's just this cloud of smoke around him where it's like he snorted a cumulus. Like, shit like that I think is really fun. And what I also really like about him, he's like, you know what? If I have to be in this shitty situation where I have to work this menial job for below menial pay, I'm going to essentially try to do as little as possible, and I'm going to sabotage Miss Lana Lee, because she's kind of an awful person, and if she's not gonna respect me, I'm not gonna respect her either. And I love that when Darlene's like, I've got this idea, I'm gonna do this routine with my bird, and Jones is like, yeah, you know, come on, Miss Lee, like, you should let her go up there and perform, it's gonna be great. You know, there's all kinds of places in the area that have their own acts and have their own pets. You know, you put a nice young girl up there with a unique act, that'll get a lot of people here in the Night of Joy. While also noting in the narration that, Jones had seen her trying, like, her, rehearsing. I was like, auditioning, that's not the right word. Had seen her rehearsing, and it was the worst thing he'd ever seen. He needed this for a sabotage. Like, that's so funny. I loved that. Even Mancuso, just the fact that Ignatius is one, it's something like, I will not be talked to this way in my house by a man wearing a false beard, because of all the disguises he has to wear to bring in suspicious characters, because it's also the 60s, like McCarthyism and all that. And you feel really bad for this cop, but also when he's just described as like, okay, like, this is the outfit he has to wear for the day, this is his disguise. And I also love the way that all comes back in the end, with when there's the other plainclothes policeman in the Night of Joy, Lana Lee can immediately tell who they are. It's like, no, these are cops. Like, anyone in my line of work that's like my kind of person can tell a cop. And then you have Mancuso in his crazy disguises that every time someone sees him knows it's a cop in disguise. And this is the one cop that Lana Lee couldn't pick. It's so perfect. I think that's really all I have to say. Just overall, book is great. I loved it. It's really funny. It's also really sad, often at the same time. And it is a damn shame that the author committed suicide. Is my understanding is, like, he could not get the book published in his lifetime, and it's part of that frustration is why he took his own life. That I'm not a hundo on. And the parallel I find really interesting is that by the end of the book, when Ignatius is leaving, he specifically says, I don't want any of my writing left behind because I don't want my mom to find it, because I don't want my mom to find my great work and then get published and, like, essentially get rich and famous off of my name and my hard work. And in reality, after, Mr. Kennedy committed suicide, his mom made it like her life's goal to get her son's work published, and she did. And I think that's really sweet, and I just find the like parallel between him and Ignatius there to be really interesting. But yeah, that's it. Book was great. Go read it. I need to get back to actually reading The Scarlet Letter.